every 5 seconds they were asking me if I was okay. How are you? Are you all right? Are you okay? And every 5 seconds. In the beginning it was weird. After 5 minutes it was irritating. I'm fine. What's wrong with my face? Is something wrong? Are you okay, love? Are you all right? Always constantly, but in such a way, too much really. Now I kind of miss it.
Bol raz jeden.
Bol raz jeden.
O ničom a o všetkom.
Ak máš nejaké otázky,
Na Markíze.
tak si ich nechaj pre seba.
To je dobrý záver.
So how many years do you live here already?
6. Someone asked me. I know because someone asked me just today, how many years I've been here. 6 years.
6 years.
Long
Cool.
time.
And how big are your kids?
I have 4 kids. I have a 14-year-old in UK, and here I have the older one here is 5, and I have twins, the 4.
Cool.
So full house.
Full house. And you told me that you came here as a dancer, as you have been traveling around.
Yeah, for
in
some
this-
reason I was coming to Slovakia. I was being booked here regularly to teach you some workshops.
Okay. What kind of dance?
It's a partner dance. It's called kizomba. It's a little bit like salsa or like bachata. But it's originally from where my family is,
Okay.
from Angola. So I had the basics and I started teaching it. When I needed a break from my normal job, I said, let me do this for some time. And in between one of the trips, I met my wife here, and I guess I was ready for a change.
Cool. And
So your wife is from Slovakia?
Slovakia.
Okay.
In Chatza.
cool. So you found the beauty of Slovak girls.
True. I don't know if I found them or they found me, but somehow we got together.
Perfect.
Yeah.
But then you came and you decided that you had to leave from something. You kept teaching dance classes.
Not really. So the thing is, I
or,
always,
or let's be, did they pay you for sex?
and I wish they did. It's about time. I've been doing it for free all my life, isn't it? But no, I was because I had my business since I was 18. You started university already, had small businesses and things, and I never had the chance to work in a corporate environment.
Okay.
And also, you don't age well as a dance teacher. Let's put it like this.
Okay. Yeah.
Unless you are some famous ballet dancer, which is not my case. So I thought that it was a good time to give it a go. Because I always used to feel a little bit intimidated when I was in business circles. And everyone, I am director of operations of blah, 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 blah. And I am this. And I was like, I have a small business and I dance.
You are the CEO.
Yeah, I always felt maybe it's time to get up there with the titles. So I started here, I came and I applied, and I got first job that I applied in IBM.
Okay.
So it was, which was interesting.
As a project manager, yeah.
At the time, I was actually a project coordinator still.
Okay.
It was based on language, so supporting some big projects for strategic outsourcing. It was interesting.
And what were the small businesses you had since you've been 18 years old?
So I started my first business that I started when I was 18, 19. I was organizing events.
Cool.
So I was in UK in Cardiff University, and I got into. I always loved music. I was a musician before I went to. I was because I'm not anymore, but at that time I was a musician and I was playing, and I met some people with a Latin music environment. And I thought, maybe I could have so many friends, I could organize some parties. And I started organizing a small party that very quickly became, at that time, the Latino culture was not as popular as it is now. So I still remember Tuesday nights at Zinc Bar. And we started doing it, and it grew very quickly and became a weekly thing, and to the point where I could leave out of it. So I started with that, and then I started getting into other genres like R&B and hip hop, and that kept growing, and I just kept adding nights and events, and then I started doing after parties for big concerts, and whenever you had people like Usher or Jay-Z or these famous R&B singers in town. So usually I used to try to get cooperations with the clubs and do after parties for them, and that started to growing, and it was cool. So that was the first business. And then in parallel I started, because I was originally sound engineering, that's what I studied. So I started a small sound engineering company. So we were What I did, I would buy very broken speakers, fix them up, and then put them up for rental. So you're opening a new nightclub, but you don't want to spend 10,000 euros on sound system. So I would make installation and make it sound good. So with some cheap equipment and some good acoustic setup, you could do a lot. And so then they would pay me the rent for it, and I would reinvest it. And so I was running those two businesses in parallel for quite a few years, almost 10.
Cool. But
What was the reason you left these businesses? Because I know this business making events. It's very interesting, but not so easy business. But what was the reason you left it?
I don't know if I can say that I ever left it, because until today I'm still organizing some events here, some small things. It's just that I don't drink.
Okay.
I don't smoke.
So you are boring like me.
I am extremely boring, and I love to sleep. And since I'm 18, I've been working nights and evenings. And the first trigger I ever had that I decided, you know what, maybe this is not for me. It's when I was working in one of these events, and I always used to drink a lot of Red Bull because everyone else is on alcohol, and I have to stay awake. And I was drinking, and once I drank a Red Bull, and it started giving me heart palpitations. And I really thought I was gonna die. Really, I could you see my shirt doing this, and that was like a trigger for me that maybe nightlife is not something to last. So from that time on, I just started doing other small things in parallel. I worked with a company which was like an estate agent, which was a really cool business. So I was working with him. We set it up, and alongside I started to DJ, and I started just because DJs were so unreliable. And then so I started. Okay, he didn't turn up. I'll play some songs. So I said, and I'm good with this. And I started this, and that's stuck. And I started to do it a lot. I started even to do some radio DJing also.
Okay.
And that's when the traveling started. I started traveling all around London, UK, also overseas a little bit, some of these touristic islands. And I got really good at it with the R&B and with the hip hop and with those things. And then I did that probably for another 10 years on top. And that's when I started really traveling a lot. And then I had the issue that I was traveling, so I couldn't do the sound system part of it.
Yeah.
And so throughout the whole conflict, and then I had my first son, also that changed the perspective a little bit as well. And I love maths and I love numbers, and I always felt like in these industries that I was in, I was missing that a little bit.
Okay.
So I think that's what triggered the curiosity about change. And then I came across the dance, which is native to our community, became very popular, like salsa is, or like other things. And I was already thinking, I don't want to be in R&B and hip hop, and because I also did a bit of security when I was a bit younger in the nightclubs and things, everything to do with entertainment I was doing. And I saw a lot of the ugly sides of this industry, and it was not, I just got saturated. So the dance world was just new, fresh, everyone happy, everyone sober and dancing. It's like, whoa, that's great. That's different. And then I just got involved, and very early stage, there was not many people doing it, so I started just getting booked all over the world. Really, I think I've been everywhere almost.
That's awesome.
From someone who had gone from Portugal to UK, and that was it. Since then I traveled, but many cities and countries I saw only hotels.
Yeah.
Hotels and nightclubs, yeah?
Well, not so much nightclubs, because it's usually these events, they're all weekends, the whole hotel booked out for this kind of thing.
Cool.
So people travel specifically for it. So. And then I did that, I don't know for how many years, probably 10, 12, a bit in parallel with all these other things. And that brought me to Slovakia. I think I came to Slovakia like 30 times before I met my wife. It's interesting.
It took her quite a while to...
Yeah, she was hiding, I don't know.
Which years were you doing this DJ thing about R&B and hip hop?
Which years?
Yeah, which years?
How many years? Or around what period?
What period?
Let me see. So I went to 2003. So 2006, 2007 I started.
That was awesome years for this kind of music.
It was, man. It was the golden R&B era,
Yeah.
you know. I got all this Jennifer Lopez and Ushers and all these periods, and you had the old school, which was still, and there was this new progressive style. So it was the perfect time.
It was the end of Scott Storch era, I think. Do you know Scott Storch?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had I had in my events Jazzy Jeff. Did you know Jazzy Jeff? He used to be the DJ for Prince of Bel-Air
Okay.
from Will Smith.
Okay.
He's probably one of the best scratching DJs
Awesome.
ever. I had all the like Fat Man Scoop, all these super cool guys, but not commercial. We were able to get them. I had Fat Man Scoop. I had, you know, Fat Man Scoop that
Yeah.
made all this crazy. Who else did we have? LL Cool J. I had
Wow.
Donald Jones, which was my idol
Awesome.
at the time. I had all these super cool. It was a great time, a great period.
Was it worth it? Did you make good money in this event?
It was great. You could make a lot of money if you were focused. And I used to partner with one guy from Bangladesh actually, but born and raised in UK. And he continued with his brand, and until today he has the #1 parties in UK, really, outside of London.
Like superstar level money?
Superstar, no. You know,
You can afford food. Yeah.
I think a well-organized event you could come out with 3,000, 4,000, or 5,000 euros.
Okay, not so bad.
But because you know you work 3 months to run an event,
Yeah.
you know you're able to do many other things in parallel, so you don't have to do just that. And that was this has been my problem since I'm a kid. I always have to do too many things at the same time, and then you end up doing everything nice instead of doing one thing amazing.
I totally understand you.
And this was my father always used to tell me off about this. You know, focus on one thing, do one thing well. But I just too many fingers is difficult. So this friend of mine who specialized in these events and he pursued it, he's doing very well. He has a great brand. So his brother, which used to be a good friend of mine, we used to DJ together on the party. His brother is now is the #1 DJ for whenever there's a celebrity for R&B hip hop coming to
Okay.
UK. His brother will follow them on tour. So it's really well connected, and so it was a great time.
Don't you miss these times?
I do, but you cross your 30s and suddenly your sleep is.
You prefer sleep even more.
I'm more of a go to sleep with the kids at 9 o'clock kind of guy at the moment.
Okay.
So. And it's just not compatible with the lifestyle that I have now.
Mhm.
But I still do the salsa parties, and we still do these kind of events. My wife is also a great dancer, and so we still have this kind of connection with the dance world. So it's not. I've managed, luckily, to still be connected but not involved.
Mhm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, mate.
So you two met each other here, and you decided to move. And how did you start to live, survive, and then do the business which you do now?
So I was in this rhythm of nights and things for many, and traveling especially, because I remember I used to teach one day of the week in each city, and then on every Friday I was flying out to some different country for some event. That was my schedule many years, and I started to develop back problems and digestion issues, and the less glamorous side of it was not nice. And so I was a little bit saturated, and I could feel it was just draining me down, and I was looking for a change even before I met my wife. So I already had in mind, okay, maybe it's time to life change. And when I met her, she was exactly what I was thinking. She was director of some whatever Lenovo company, and she had all this jargon and technical conversation that I thought, oh, these people are so intelligent. Later I found out it's not true. So she was great because she could advise me, and I decided at the time that it's time for change, and I went and I applied for first level position in IBM, which I thought, I can survive with this. Luckily, I had no debts and nothing that I needed to have very high income for. So I applied and I got the job, and when I moved here, I was still doing some dance classes, and I still had residual many events booked. So I'm still traveling a little bit on the weekends, but slowly faded it out.
Okay, and then you find out that you are in a corporation and you want to do something aside, and you started your first Portuguese shop, bakery, with delivering the Portuguese culture to Slovakia, and bringing here something which is one of my famous cakes, and is basic. Actually, it is I think 17th famous and best cake in the world. It's in the
17th only. Oh,
Yeah,
well, we have work
I
to
think-
do. We
yeah.
have work to do. It can't be 17.
But I think because the people did not travel to Portugal
True.
enough yet to know it. So you are now exporting the culture here. I recommend to have pastel de nata to everybody because it's a really amazing cake. And you have also the other pastries,
Yeah. Mhm.
which are typical to Portugal. And how did you start? You even bake it here.
Well, I started with like most people. I just loved eating them, and I was constantly looking for where can I buy it, and it's funny because I had this idea. You know what? I'm gonna start making them, and it happened that I had connection to one friend in UK who is, in my opinion, one of the best bakers, Portuguese traditional bakers, like artisan style. We make cakes. He makes art kind of person.
Okay.
And we had that connection, and I had the interest, and I was talking to him about it. And it's actually a funny story. I had this idea, and I said, you know what? Now I have a very good job with a good salary. I can afford to try something extra. And I was walking through Laurinska,
Okay.
and I had this. I was walking through Laurinska because I was looking at possible locations already and everything. And I heard some people talking in Portuguese, and it was one guy talking in Portuguese, explaining his pastel de nata concept. Saying, we're gonna make it, we're gonna make the pastéis, and he was selling it to someone else. So kind of the idea. And I was sitting next to them, like kind of hearing a little bit what Jesus did with this guy. And then I realized that they already had a shop planned, and I said, you know what, it's not the time to, there's nothing starting with two companies. I said, you know what, I will sit on my enjoying side, and I will just, and after a few months I saw they opened this Nata, which is a franchise
Yeah. Okay.
in Mikalska.
Yeah.
And which was great. So I was going there to buy the cakes for some time. I was not a fan because 90% of the people cannot distinguish the difference between a frozen pastel and a not frozen pastel.
Yeah. Okay.
But I can. And it always used to bother me a little bit, but I thought it's not enough for me to go and do something about it. So let them. And then fortunately, after a few months, they went bankrupt.
Yeah.
They couldn't
closed.
manage it there, and I don't know, for their own reasons, but so I thought after they closed down, I said, okay, so now is the time. I had a friend who wanted to participate. I thought at least we just shared the responsibility, and then we started in Opkodam. So first was just little coffee and pastel instead of the whole offering. I thought we'll make it Portuguese lifestyle, which is coffee and pastel only.
Yeah.
And then that was the beginning.
I remember myself when I came first time to Lisbon, and I found out about pastel, and I tasted it, and I was there for 3 months. I ate at least one pastel every day, sometimes even 2 of them. Oh my God, I loved it, and it's a great combination with the shot of coffee and the pastel. And
Yeah,
it was
for
like
sure.
we were launching our business there, and we were working like 18 hours a day. We came first into the office, we left last, and so on. And our break was having a pastel and a coffee, and it was.
That was exactly what I was trying to create. This. Well, in the beginning, I remember we had lots of criticism, especially from Portuguese. Oh, you don't have this, you don't have that. What kind of Portuguese coffee shop is that? we are not you know how it is. I remember once I told one of our customers, I said, I would be happy if you focus on what we have, not what we don't have. Because there's many things we don't have, but what we do have is the coffee and pastel nut experience.
Yeah, the experience is amazing, and I immediately, when I found out even about the franchise, I became fan, and I visited it, unfortunately, a few times only. But when your shop appeared very close to my apartment, I am a regular customer there.
Nice.
And I love it. Of course, you have now a lot of products there. Let's get back to beginning. How was it for a foreigner in Slovakia, somebody who doesn't speak Slovak, setting the entity, the company, and all the bureaucracy around? What did you have to overcome to get?
To be honest, it was very difficult, and if it was not for the help that I had, or I think if you are as a foreigner, you try it on your own to like. Usually, I would do with any kind of business. I just dig, and I will find it one way or another. With this type of approach, I don't think it would have worked. I would still be here trying to register my company.
To be honest, it's also hard for Slovakians.
But I was a bit blessed because at the time, also through my wife's connections, I was sharing office with a friend of ours, and he's extremely savvy on the whole business way of working in Slovakia, and he helped me with the first steps. That's the truth.
Cool.
And also, my wife did a lot of digging and helped. But if not, the only other solution would have been to hire some company to do it for me, some kind. I don't even know if they exist, but if they don't, there's a niche in the market. Someone should create it.
Probably, yeah.
Sure, there is, but because even a lot of the steps, even the people in the offices did know. Like, for example, doing my, when you know this, you have this e-portal for finances and everything that you do. For it took us months of digging and pushing to find out that because I am a foreigner, I cannot sign documents. Like something a little detailed that nobody knew. In the end, was an IT guy who had to tell us after digging and calling and months. And if you cannot do anything digitally with your ID there, it's difficult because this is just one of the examples.
I completely understand. When we were starting in Portugal, we also got the help. So it was, of course, much easier, but without help, it would be kind of difficult. But I think the difficulty is not comparable towards what can be here.
But just to make sure, I don't think that Slovakia is harder than other places.
Probably
I just think that Slovakia was still a few years ago. I don't know how it is now. It's still opening up to the idea of this multicultural international connection kind of things, because there are many things here that, because me being a Portuguese, if you'll come to Portugal, I will complain about our system. I say we are the worst, and I think everyone kind of does that about their own country.
Okay.
But at the same time, some things worked really well here, and I found out that if I would have approached in Slovak, which is the right way, I am here, I want to do business here, so I need to learn your way. Sometimes it's not as bad as.
Of course, yeah. There are very difficulties. There are very different difficulties in different countries, in different areas of the bureaucracy. For example, in Portugal, there is this thing which is called Chave Móvel Digital. Chave Móvel?
Chave Móvel Digital.
Yeah, it's a kind of an ID card which you can use as our ID card to sign documents or sign services with the state. And I have it, but I really don't know how to use it. And I have this. I tried several times and I wasn't successful. So always when I want to do something with state in Portugal, I have a great excuse to go visit Portugal.
Nice.
I think it's very similar to the system here. But in the same time, for the citizens, it's probably very comfortable to use it. I don't know if you use it.
No, I don't. But I've been out of Portugal for many years.
Okay.
I don't really visit. All my family is either in UK or somewhere else, so I don't have many excuses to go there. So I end up, I think it was maybe 10 years since I was in Portugal. Last time, and even that time, I think it was I went by work. I went to Swedish dance teaching. So in the last 20 years, I have visited very little. But in general here in Slovakia, I found that there are many experiences that actually work.
Okay.
From the bureaucracy side, but it's clear that it's going through a transition phase.
Of course,
so
it's getting better.
So I see tremendous improvement in the last few years. It's just the openness of working with foreigners. That's the difficulty that we find here, because if one process for a Slovak person works fine, but the same process for a foreigner person who is registered here to live and has all the same rights and everything is not the same. It's different.
Okay. It's very different. Yeah.
Even just going through that foreign police initial, it's the fear of every person, I think.
That's probably kind of residuum or from the past. But maybe if you would compare the Portuguese culture and Slovakian culture, do you see some similarities or
I think so. I think like I mentioned last time, I think they're both very negative cultures. People in general. It's very easy to go to Portugal and see the smiley touristic faces, but in general, the Portuguese person is not as bubbly or positive as other. For example, in the UK, people are extremely smiley and happy. It's a mask because deep inside, people are different, but culturally, that's how they are.
Okay.
And I remember this funny story when I went to UK. My English was not great, and my first ever job was cleaning toilets in the university.
Okay.
Because I remember that they told me, okay, so when you arrive, you have to pay for your accommodation and then blah, blah. So I traveled to UK. I had like 200 euros in my pocket,
Okay.
and I had my saxophone on one side and my bag on the other side. And I arrived there, smiling, and said, okay, so it's 300 euros for accommodation. I was like, oh, you said I can pay it later. So in the end, I had to sleep in the. Luckily, I came with some of the Portuguese people. I had to sleep in their rooms or in the common areas for the first few days until I found the first job and I could pay this stupid 300 euros. And my first job was cleaning toilets.
Cool.
So my first experience was with this very old Welsh people, which is barely English. And at every 5 seconds, they were asking me if I was okay. How are you? Are you all right? Are you okay? At every 5 seconds. In the beginning, it was weird. After 5 minutes, it was irritating. I'm fine. What's wrong with my face? Is something wrong? Are you okay, love? Are you all right? Always, constantly, but in such a way, too much, really. Now, I kind of miss it. this constantly nicety about communicating with people.
All right.
Because you come to Slovakia, people are very direct and cold.
Okay.
And
Who
then
would say that?
that's a shock compared to the UK culture.
All right.
But, yeah.
And what are the differences
Between
of Portuguese and Slovakian
Portuguese and
cultures?
I think they are more similar because for me, one of the interesting things when I came here, I felt closer to home culturally,
Okay.
which is
More
interesting.
similar.
From UK here, Portugal to UK is a very big shock. And UK to here, I felt like, ooh, this is more familiar to me.
Yeah.
I think there are many similarities. I don't know if I can put it culturally. I think the negativity is something in common. I think people here are colder and more transparent
Okay.
with emotions, and Portuguese people are more Latino and full of bullshit. Sometimes it's better to be direct and upfront, and we go around circles. And this is why most Latino economies don't ever explode, because they keep going around the shortcuts all the time.
But maybe it also differs from the areas, because I was mostly in Lisbon, so the people there were kind of direct with me. But also all of them had to be English speaking. So
true. So I think that kind of filters the type of people that you come across already.
Yeah.
So straight away you have some more educated type people. But yeah, I think people in Portugal are very quirky. They're very special, and I think one of the things that I find here is that people here also value their free time, and they value their off period more than anywhere else I've seen in the world.
is it like
Because that is one thing. In Portugal, I think our jobs tend to be we become the jobs. Like if you are a baker, you are a baker, not just the work, but you are you leave your job.
Okay.
If you are this, you are that. And in here it's a little bit different. When I started, I remember when I moved from IBM to Lenovo, which was already a nicer position with more people. This was completely interesting for me. At 11 o'clock, everyone was going for lunch. I was thinking, 11 o'clock? This was breakfast or lunch? And everyone was coming to work at 6 a.m. and they were all ready to leave at 3. And at 3, I was thinking, okay, should I start working? Or this for me was because everyone at Fridays, everyone wanted to start as early as possible, because on a Friday they want to go to the cottage, they want to go to the mountains, and they want to go skiing, one of those things. And this for me was, wow, it's incredible. It's nice. And I think people should value their time and their space and everything. But at the same time, we came from such a different culture where everyone starts and finishes when the job is done. So this for me was a little bit of a shock.
It's interesting. I completely understand this shock because when we were starting in Lisbon, we were of course the first in the office, like for example at 8 a.m. And the first people coming to the office, the Portuguese locals, were like coming at around 10 or 10:30.
Yeah.
So
Makes sense.
we were already really hungry at lunchtime, like 11:30. We were like super hungry, and they were like, "What the lunch? We still have 2 hours to go." So yeah, that's kind of different. But what I felt in Portugal was that even all of us foreigners there were very welcome. Yeah, it was. Not sure if it's the same way here, but.
I think Portugal has a very long history of welcoming different cultures. I think that kind of prepares them to be more open to foreigners in general. Because you've been to Portugal, it's like 50% Portuguese, and then the other 50% is Africans and Ukrainians and Brazilians and all kinds of mixtures of people. So we've been in that blend, in that mix for many years. And I think here in Slovakia is a mixture of fear, new caution. I think it just takes a bit more time. But saying this, I've heard, especially if you follow the foreign groups here, I've always heard many things bad about attitude of Slovaks towards foreigners.
Okay.
But I've been here for all these years, and I think in all my life I had once one negative comment, just a comment that I quickly turned it back with another comment back, and it's closed. So 99.99% of the times, people are actually very pleasant, and they're actually embarrassed and happy to have a chance to say something in English.
Perfect.
So
finally, they can practice.
I have a positive experience here.
That's very nice to have.
Even when because my wife is from Chats, and I've gone to these villages and travel and everything, even in these more rural areas, we always had a nice experience.
That's awesome.
So
yeah, we say a lot of fairy tales, which are passed from the parents towards the kids. Is they contain welcoming other people. So maybe it is somewhere in the roots in Slovakia, but on the other side there is also this fear, which you mentioned. It's interesting that when you say, like, for example, half of the culture in people in Portugal are kind of foreigners or from different localities. And Portuguese people, they still keep a really strong connection with their culture.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I am not talking only about the pastels, but also the different dancing styles and music and so on. Mm-hmm. What do you think? Why is that?
I think Portugal has a very strong cultural heritage, and Portugal for many centuries, maybe millennia, has not been oppressed from a cultural perspective. Like many of the Balkan countries, in a way, these countries were a bit oppressed culturally by the communism and all these things.
Yeah.
And even when we had the fascism was extremely devoted to us as a people, and we are strong, and which is more of the communist tends to be a little bit more of a group identity kind of thing, and communism tends to be more of a nationalism thing.
Yeah.
So, as bad as it was, it kept our cultural identity very intact.
Okay.
So, and I think that gives Portugal a few decades, hundreds, or centuries of self-focus that makes our culture very strong compared to other countries. I think that's one of the reasons. And another thing is also that we value family a lot in Portugal, I think. So I still remember 8 p.m. is dinner time for everyone. Doesn't matter who they're, none of this standing, walking, everyone sits at the table. Is very, and that for me is beautiful.
Yeah, that is.
It's but I think this is for sure a fact, because most cultures that are more closed, or cultures they have a very disseminated self-identity. They tend to come from periods of a lot of oppression, so it takes many generations to clear up.
Of course. Let's get back to business. What are the you grew quite, I would say, fast. Now yesterday you have opened the fourth. Is it fourth shop?
Yeah, it's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Fourth shop. You also bake all the cakes for yourself. If somebody would want to start any kind of similar business, what do you think? What are the steps to make it as successful as you are?
I think number one and the most important step, and it's something that we miss a lot in gastronomy sometimes, is try to understand why it is that you want to do it. Because many people, they try to do it because they like it, and that is not a recipe for success.
Okay.
So I love my cakes and I love my Portuguese culture and everything, but the reason why I went from a passion into a business is because I saw a unique business opportunity.
Okay.
So our product is differentiated. You remember your first reaction from the first time you had your pastel de nata?
Yeah.
And I see this every day, especially in Evi that we have the big vitrine. People come and they think it's cheese from the looks. Many times, is it cheese or slatke or slane? And they will buy it. Oh, I'll take one. And then halfway through the walk through the escalator, they try it and they stop. They're like, oh, they look back. What is this? Please, box 6. Happens on a daily basis. And there are not many products in the world that give you this amazing reaction. And that's when I looked at it, I said, okay, so this is special. This, we can make a business that can grow, because I never had the dream of working in a little coffee shop making coffee shops. I love business. I want to grow, and I have the entrepreneur side of the approach. So that's the number one thing. Understand why do you want to do the business, and do you have a product that differentiates you from the other places? I think that's the number one success factor.
You are also self-funded, so does a person need a lot of money to start doing any business?
I think depending on the business, gastro is a very expensive business, and is a business that you have to put up front to collect later.
Okay.
And I was blessed to have a very good job before and had other business there, so we were able to have that initial capital investment, and it is quite high for a normal person with a normal salary. I think it's you need to really be sure.
So is it 100,000 when you start, or it's less, or?
You mean for my specific business, or in general?
Yeah. What do you think is the breaking point? Which, if you have this amount of money, you can start. For example, in gastro.
I think it depends. If your approach is business, to the business is focus on the product, or if it's focus on the service, okay, or if it's focus on the brand.
All right.
So usually, if you want to start a business and be focused on the brand, you need to have money. Okay. Because you need to put your brand on people's faces and on people's things, which was not my case. I think if you are focused on the business, I think it's important that you have experience. If you have experience, you'll know. Okay. Because the operations of the business, the maths, it takes a lot of discipline to be able to have all of these points of input and be able to consolidate them and understand what you make, what you sell, what you have, and what you buy. This is really difficult. I never thought it was so much. Luckily, I was good with Excel. Let's put it like this. And or the third approach, which is from the product perspective, and that is the approach where I think you'd take less initial investment, because I could have started doing the pastel de nata from my garage.
Of course.
I could have bought a small little oven and make small amounts and grow, and then buy a bigger oven and then grow, and then buy, and that is a sensitive approach when you're focused on the product. Okay. But that's how I break down the business styles in gastro.
Great way how to think about different business models, how to approach business. What would you ask?
I ask questions like, I'm 7 years old, so for example, I'm wondering which were the first Slovakian words that you learned when you arrived here?
First one I've learned was zmrzlina.
Okay, that's awesome.
Cool.
I have the sweet tooth, and for some reason the word kind of flow easily through my mouth. And I remember I came to work I was doing a workshop in Banská Bystrica. It was the first time I came to Slovakia, because I did a seminar in Prague, And there was one lady there from Basque Bistrica that liked it, and she invited me there, and it was really great. And the first thing that we did is came out, we looked at the ice creams that look good. I said, oh, how do you say this? I'll have one of those.
I'm happy to hear that, because we have this tradition here in Slovakia that first words we learn people from abroad are insults.
No, they're too complicated. Yeah, no, I didn't get. I avoid the insults. In general, I don't use many swear words.
Okay.
In general, in whatever language I'm speaking in, because my mother was very strict. You know, they say that pain gives you a memory of what not to do. So every time I'm going to say a swear word, I think my ear starts to get red. Let's be nice. So I never had the habit, but yeah, I don't feel the impact with the Slovak swear words. Like when you say swear words in English, you can really like. Can you say swear words in
the same in opposite?
If you say like "fuck you," it's like, you know, it's years of watching American movies, and it really has an impact on you. But when you say it how do you say it in Slavic? It's don't be something. Don't be. How do you say it?
Yeah, there are different kinds.
Yeah. So when you say it, I don't feel the punch. So I don't need them.
Yeah,
I think it's the same for us with English insults.
Yeah, if we watch movie and somebody says "fuck you," or
it's like nothing for me.
Yeah, it's like, hey bro.
Is your strict mother the reason you are not drinking?
No. My father did enough drinking for the whole family. Let's put it like that. And but to be honest, that's not even the real reason why I don't drink, because it didn't stop my brothers. The main reason that I don't drink is actually I don't like it.
Okay. Yeah.
And
so you had tried?
I've tried everything you can imagine. I've tried. For me, the ones I hate the most is beer and wine.
Okay,
interesting.
Because I love one of my first ever jobs. I was working in one of the most posh wineries in Portugal. In don't even remember the name of the street anymore. Very close to Chiado and Bairro Alto.
Yeah, okay. It's a city center in Lisbon.
Yeah, and the whole underground part of the restaurant was just a huge wine cellar. And I used to be at one point the wine specialist. I knew everything about all the main wines, and I could describe them and everything. So did you try it? No. just from what everyone else tells me. So that's so I love the wine culture so much that I'm trying with the wines now in our Portuguese lounge, and but the taste is just doesn't work.
Not for you. I completely understand. And what is so you are you continue to implement the new products, you try new opportunities. Basically, you have this retails, and you have the school of dancing and bakery. And what are? It looks like you are doing it like nothing. What are your difficulties?
I wish it was like nothing. It's definitely not like nothing. It's one good thing is that whenever usually I have an idea about a project or something, usually I have this thing that I see it from beginning till the end. So I think many people struggle with this to define direction, and me is the other way around. I have too much direction, and when I see all the curves, and I stress with how the hell am I going to do it. But from very early, I knew my goal was to create, to expand the Portuguese culture through different approaches. So we started with a coffee shop, and then we moved into the dance school, and now the wine bar, and then we were moved into the coffee, and now the importing, exporting of coffee, and hopefully soon we're going to start bringing more different types of products, and then the next will be the restaurant, and I wanted to continue to, and then maybe the travel agency, and just keep growing and growing around this ecosystem of Portuguese culture. That was my goal.
Cool.
Because I saw that there was one thing that was interesting when I came here. People was just everything there was quality. People just associated it with Italian.
Yeah, I don't know why.
You would come in and sit in a coffee shop and it said they wouldn't tell you the coffee is good or bad. Is this Arabica? They don't know it's Italian, and you have to just say, oh, it's great. And for me, it was interesting because we really don't have this perspective in Portugal at all that the Italians make things better than the others. But in here, it's like, oh, Italian cuisine, learn in Italy. And so it was pissing me off in the beginning. I said, that we make it better than them. So I will get people here saying, oh, it's Portuguese. That was my goal. Yeah. And so that my business plan is thrive on this Portuguese ecosystem of culture.
I love that your reason for starting business wasn't the money in the first place. You have the bigger goal behind it.
I unfortunately, for the good and for the bad, I've never cared about money. It's every single cent I ever made with my business has gone immediately straight back into the business. So I've been, let's say, 4 years with no salary. So
I think it's the best strategy.
How do you survive? Do you eat pasta donata?
No, I am lucky. I have a very patient wife with also that has a good job. And it's early when I came here, also invested a little bit into properties, and that helped us balance. Because I always thought, I know that I'm like this. I always take steps bigger than sometimes I can afford, and I thought, let me create some stability around if something goes wrong.
Some pillow, yeah.
We have family, we have kids, so that was my first step, and it's also one of the reasons why I wanted to get a job, because I discovered early into my business career that if you have amazing business and you're making lots of money, you are worth less to the banking system than if you have a 9-to-5 job getting 2,000 euros a month.
Yeah,
which for me was amazing. I have here my business, I make $500,000 a year, you will not give me a mortgage. But I have here my pay slips with 1,000 euros a month and you'll give me, how? I couldn't believe that, but yeah. So I understood that early, so I thought, okay, if I want the properties, first I need to also have this stability, and it worked. We managed to acquire some properties here in Slovakia, and then I said, okay, enough properties, so now I can do my business. I don't need the bank. So yeah.
So yeah, you have it kind of balanced out, and I see your wife is also really active. She still works. She have kids.
She's a machine.
She's a machine. So.
Michael, do you know his wife personally?
Not yet, but I heard about her already, and I'm saying she has to be your hero.
I wouldn't say hero. That was a bit too much, but but she's definitely my general. Let's put it like that, because
Okay.
it's not easy to be the wife of someone that every day comes and says, "I have an idea." So, and this happens every single day. I have too many ideas, too many plans, too many things. And for someone who does not have in their blood the entrepreneurship, it's very scary.
Of course.
It's like saying, you don't see my parachutes, but I'm going to jump from this building. No, it doesn't matter how much you trust me, how much you know that I'm not stupid and everything, still, you're going to be nervous about it. And that's what happens. I guess we're opposites. She's a very steady, fixed person, and I'm a bit adventurous.
So how do you? But she also helps you from time to time.
For sure. I wouldn't be able to do things without her inputs, to be honest. Because not only sometimes she keeps me a little bit grounded, so that it doesn't go from an idea. I always like to say that every idea is good if it comes with a plan.
Okay.
And sometimes when you are led by emotions, it's a little bit difficult to distinguish between an idea with a plan and an idea with a dream. And sometimes having people who are a bit more grounded, it helps you to say, that's a dream, that's not an idea.
Okay.
So for her, I think she's been like this a little bit. But at the same time, there's the other side of the coin. One day she cannot see that the idea really is a plan. But for her, people tend to project to you how they see themselves.
Yeah, okay.
So it's like whenever you come to an idea to a person and they could not see how could they possibly make it happen, for them, usually the feedback, especially you get this a lot from family and friends, and they say, no, it's not a good idea, you're going to get, because they cannot see how can it be done. And sometimes that's the negative side of being the grounded person. But we have a good balance.
Did you have this entrepreneurship in your family?
My father, 100% yes.
Okay.
But my father had this. My mother always used to advise me against this, and I think he had the exact same thing like me. He had many ideas, but many times he was not able to distinguish between ideas and dreams.
Okay.
And what does that to you, which did to me in my very early career, is that you start and then you move on to something else. You start and you move on to something else, and then everything is average.
Okay.
And you never finish. Many business ideas I started in the UK, I ended up giving it or letting it with other people, and now they're successful businesses. And I moved on to the next step without accomplishment. And I was doing that a lot in my early career. I remember my mother stopped me and told me, don't be like your dad. Find the one thing that you are good at and make it grow. and that's what I've decided. I'm so good at eating these cakes. I must be good at making them. So
there is this philosophy that if you are good in starting things and making ideas, you have to find people, and then
absolutely
they finish these ideas for you.
The way I see it is that there are two types of people. This is extremely generic and very cliche, but there are the people who lead and the people who manage.
Yeah.
And of course, there are the people who follow. But focusing on most of the times, the people who are leading are not the ones who are managing. And I can say this for myself. I feel like I need a lot of help with the management, because
how do you navigate it?
With many flaws, and I am trying my best to be surrounded by people who are strong at managing, because people say that leaders and creatives change the world, but I don't believe it. Actually, who change the world is the people who manage it, because you can have the most amazing idea in the world, but if you're not able to see it through, it's just another idea, it's just another cloud that comes and goes. And I find that the people who are steady, organized, and disciplined, which are the managers, are the ones who actually affect change to the world. And
Continue.
And I find that people who are extremely successful are the ones who manage to have who manage to blend these two skills into one person. But this is very rare.
Yeah, of course.
What is your or how do you identify in this person if you want to work with him or not? Or how do you identify if he's good in managing things? Do you have any kind of test or something like that?
No. I think that identifying the correct traits is still something that I am working on. It's not something that I can say that I'm amazing at. So one thing that I tend to be good at is self-analysis, and I try to be very down to earth with what I know I am good and what I am not, and that has put me away from troubles very often. And so usually when I am looking for someone to work alongside me, I try to look for someone with the characteristics where I am not so strong.
Okay.
Discipline, strong with attention to detail. This kind of I try to look also for people who are not emotionally very volatile. Because if you are volatile, I don't think I'm an emotionally volatile person, but I have many volatile ideas. And sometimes I try to look for people who complement me on that because usually I have an idea and then I have to give it to someone after. I can create it, set it up, build the building blocks, but then I'm not going to be daily actively managing it.
Yeah, I understand.
So I try to find people that have this quality. And also, it's like too many creative people in the same room. You create a lot, but you have nothing. So I try to look for people who are doers.
Perfect. You have around, I don't know, 20 employees, co-workers, and so on, and I think a lot of them are foreigners also. Why is that? You can be brutally honest.
For sure. I don't know if in the beginning of the conversation I mentioned how Portuguese people leave their job. So if they are a baker, they are a baker. It's not just a job, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And this is what I found a lot in Portugal, especially in the gastronomy area. So people can be a waiter for all their lives, or a baker all their lives, and they retire as bakers and everything. And what I find in gastronomy in Slovakia is that people don't see it like that. So gastronomy tends to be either a last option or the only option, or a passing process. So let's do this while we're trying to do that. I think for many reasons. One of the reasons is that at the moment Slovakia is booming, and it's very easy to have access to capital. So if you are young and intelligent and skillful in gastronomy, you open your own place.
Of course.
I think this is why every corner you see a coffee shop. Because everyone who starts in coffee shop, they learn about the brewing process, they fall in love with it, they find credit, they open a shop. And every street there's 1, 2, 3 coffee shops. It's too much sometimes.
Yeah, a lot of empty coffee shops.
Yeah, and the other spectrum of the people are the ones who are doing it temporarily. They don't have any other option, and these people tend to be less international and less educated and less skilled. So you find yourself with two very different, difficult pools of people to hire. And so far it has been extremely, excruciatingly difficult to hire people and keep them. Slovak people in general.
Okay.
The reason why we turn into the foreign market is not because we want to, it's just necessity. If not, we would be, I think we have out of 20, we have at the moment, how many Slovak people? We have one lady, which is kind of a partner, not so much an employee, maybe 2 Slovaks.
Okay.
And we've tried, we really tried. We've used Profizia, we are constantly trying to hire, but to work with us, you need to be able to speak English.
Of course.
Not business level, but at least communication, because we need to we need to know what we want and how it's. I know it's not nice because we're in Slovakia, you should be able to communicate, but it is what it is, and we try our best. So we end up finding we have Colombian, Venezuelan, Filipinian, Iran, have a Turkish lady, we have Ukrainian, we have all the Portuguese, many different nationalities.
And your employees, like in the front line, like when I visit your shop and I want to order something, do they speak to me in Slovak or in English?
Most of the times, most of the employees, we push them to learn the basic. You'd be surprised how you can survive with a limited spectrum of vocabulary serving, because even myself, someone comes in order, you can order anything in my shop, I will serve you in Slovak.
Okay.
And then suddenly you ask me about the weather, and I'm like, nie hovorím po slovensky. But anything you ask, I will reply. You ask questions about the wine, about the coffee. I have this basic vocabulary, and most of the employees have this basic Slovak.
Okay.
And this works 99.9% of the times. Of course, there is that 0.1% is people who are not happy to speak in Slovak or don't understand, but it's very rare that we ever have a problem with this. Most of the time, people are actually smiling because they can see some different culture.
Or they can point on things they want. They don't have to talk.
Yeah. We don't really, and especially our Obchodne shop, it's amazing. I think 70% of our customers are foreigners.
Okay.
It's really super interesting. I think it's because all the tourists come into that central area.
Yeah.
And then we have the local Slovak people who are there in the offices or working in the shops. So to work there, we barely need to know how to speak Slovak.
Do you have any funny stories while you've been here? Or crazy?
Oof. Oh, I tend to be a good boy, so I don't have many.
Or maybe from the experience you've met somebody, or you had some really hard difficulty.
I think the most traumatic experience in Slovakia for foreigners is going to the foreign police. I think that's it. Really, now it improved, but it used to be you have to camp outside overnight to be able to speak to someone, and you go to foreign police and there's nobody there who can speak any foreign language. Okay. And I think it comes from the fact that it's a very administrative job and it's given to police officers.
Of course.
Which just, in my opinion, doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I understand maybe some approval or some review should go by an official, but you go to Portugal and you have the citizen shop.
Yeah.
You're not dealing with angry police officers who did a police academy. They haven't shot anyone in so many years, and they're there sitting behind the desk, listening to all kind of languages. Trying to, I can understand the frustration. And like you're an IT engineer and you have to go work and make sandwiches. You're never going to be a nice, give you a nice service.
Maybe you have just proposed the solution first.
I think with any kind of job, with any kind of thing, and you need to have a competent CEO for the task. It doesn't matter if it's running a government, if it's running a religion, everything in the world is business and transactions. So whenever you have an incompetent person who is there because of merit or by family or by culture or by any other thing besides competence, it creates frustration. And it's clear that people in the foreign police are frustrated for doing a job which is not what they want to be doing.
Yeah, I understand.
So I can understand. That helps me to survive them a little bit better also when I understand, okay, I know you're not happy. You wanted to be sniffing some things with your dog, and instead looking for drugs and arresting stupid people, instead you're here. But understandable.
I don't know this process because logically I've never had to do this. But is this like one of the first places you have to visit when you come to Slovakia?
When you move to Slovakia, you have a certain amount of time when you're moving, settle,
Okay.
where you have to go and register yourself, which makes sense, you know. So if you're a foreigner, that's where you will go and apply for your visa from a third world country. If you're European, you still have to go and register, and then they'll process you and they'll give you an ID,
Okay.
a local ID. And this is the most painful, horrible process in the world.
Not so good for us Slovakians, because when you come from abroad, one of the first experiences here is not so good.
Mm-hmm. Which is really a shame, and really sets the tone for
Yeah.
the approach, for the attitude of Slovaks towards. If you go into foreigners in Slovakia groups, there's an extremely negative tone towards Slovakia. If you just read this, you'd imagine Slovakia is a horrible place.
Okay.
Because of the feedback, and not all, but a lot of it. Because that's the first, it's the first impression and the last impression. Usually, that's the taste that stays in your mouth, and that's the first impression is very, very bad, very aggressive. I remember when I came was in the period where these Ukrainian mafias were there. You had to pay them, and then they will save your space. So if you arrive there first in the line, you have to go there. Imagine it, like at 11 at night, and wait all the way until next day at 8 a.m. to be served. Really, it's this bad.
Whoa.
In the winter and whatever. So what was happening? These Ukrainian guys were
Keeping the
like
places.
making the mafia, and if you're there, there's like 5 or 6 of them. What you gonna do? Fight them over a plate? It was really like
That's
this.
crazy.
Because as soon as you open, you have like a few minutes to take your ticket. If you didn't take your ticket in that minute, it was over for the day. So you have to come back next day again at 10 p.m. or whatever time and do the whole process. Horrible.
That's crazy, but sadly, I'm not surprised.
Probably it's changed a bit, but
It has improved, yeah.
but it's still probably not as it can be. I remember when you come to Portugal, I can compare it because I was not settling there, but you have to have this kind of a VAT number or tax number as a citizen, NIF. Yeah, and you visit this citizenship office or what kind of some financial office, and you take a number and you wait 30 minutes, and you get, even with your ID, you don't need anything, and you get the number and you are out. So I can imagine it can be somewhere it works also better.
But if there's anyone from the government listening to this podcast, please give a rest to these police officers. They want to go and shoot some people, not stamp papers. So really, it will improve the experience. They will improve the experience, for sure.
We have to share it by mail to all the officials.
Yeah, this guy that makes cake said. Yeah, that will go down well.
And of course, all the policemen are welcome to the shop. The pastel de nata is new muffin.
For sure.
It's better than muffin. And what are donuts? It's better than donuts. So you should try it, and it's also healthier than that, I believe.
There is this one question I like to ask every guest here, and you mentioned your father. What is the best thing your father learned you?
I had a bit of controversial relationship with my father, but at the same
If
time,
you don't feel comfortable talking about it,
I have no problem talking. But at the same time, he's not with us anymore. Fortunately, he's gone to heaven or somewhere in between. But many things, many basic things. One thing that he's always taught me, because I'm very passionate when I'm talking about business, but in general, I'm an introvert. I'm not a very talkative person. And for sure, one thing he taught me is that whenever you don't have anything to say, shut up. That has helped me but in general, my father always had this attitude that doesn't matter who you are, never let anyone step on you. And that I've done all kinds of jobs in my life. I've cleaned toilets for students, and I've been director in very big international companies. So at every single position, I always held myself with pride. And I think that comes from my father. He had a very strong personality. And independently of his education, he was a very, very intelligent person. So I think those maybe in different, we could break it down in small advices and small sayings and cliches, I think. But I think that's the energy that I got from my father.
Okay.
I never allowed anyone to step on me.
I think that's very nice.
Independently of the setup.
Very good. People should listen to that to be
True.
proud of themselves. Of course, also working hard, but this is good advice.
There are always very nice things when I ask this question.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Are you going to ask the question, how do you say no?
I can. What is your favorite way to say no to somebody? Because just to give you the context, it's hard for me to say no for a lot of opportunities and people. So I ask these questions also our guests. What is your favorite way to say no?
So it's a little bit general, but I go with the straight up no. I don't have a problem with saying no. Never had if it's not. One thing that I've learned, especially in the since I've started with this business, is that most valuable thing we have in life is time.
Okay.
And if it's not beneficial in any way, I'm very clear with no. And it started with my when I was working in companies. That when you work in IT, you get a lot of these meeting requests for this, meeting requests for that, and I started a trend in my department: meeting request. Why do you need me?
That's awesome.
Oh, because we want your opinion. If you want more opinion, call me directly. If I'm not needed in this meeting, I reject. And I started with this attitude, and that saved me lots of time of these long meetings with 20 people saying nothing. And I carried that approach into my business, into everything, and that for sure helped me. I have no problem with saying no. And I think sometimes even for the people who are approaching you with something, with any kind of proposal, it's more beneficial to them to know that no is no, than to know, oh, maybe, let's see, I will learn, and that's no time wasting for anyone.
I have a lot to learn.
Believe me, it's liberating. It's like when I was younger, when I was 8, 9, I used to lie a lot. I was in this phase, I learned about lying, and this is cool, you can get so much done with lying. And this is, I remember this was my father who always used to squeeze me on this. And then one day I decided, you know what, I'm not going to lie anymore. And I'm telling you, the first week, have you ever seen this movie, Yes Man?
Yeah.
No.
I
I know it, but
This first
I haven't
week
seen
it was painful. I was, at every interaction, I was double guessing, should I lie, should I not? It was very, very difficult. But once I got into it, I couldn't see it any other way. It was like liberating. There's no mixed feelings in the air. It's clear. Yes, no.
That's perfect.
And sometimes, even when you think that it works against you, it doesn't. On the long term.
In the long term, it works best. The truth is, the word liberating is the best way how to say that.
We had the saying in Portugal that mentira tem perna curta, which means lying has short legs.
Yeah, we say
We don't go very far with this.
Say lož má krátké nohy.
Yeah. So yeah, I try my best to. Nobody's perfect, but I try my best to apply it.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That's it. Probably we will want to see your progress with other shops. I hope you will bring us some different cultures.
Many ideas. It's coming.
mainly from the Portugal, as I'm a really huge fan. And thank you for coming.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
What was the reason you didn't say no to this opportunity to talk with us? You didn't even know us.
The main reason, I think it was nice that we had the conversation first, but I think the main reason is because I am, a business life is a very lonely life. If you've ever started your own business, really 100% dedicated to it, you know that you have to cut off the party people, the people who waste your time, the family who have nothing to say, and you end up finding yourself very lonely. And from a business perspective, I find myself very lonely here. And I want to be around the people who have the same kind of approach to life and business as I do. And I felt like your podcast was in a relaxed way, business focused. And I thought, okay, that's an opportunity to go and meet some more people who like business like me.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you told me this, but I've heard from some friend of mine that they had this woman colleague in their office. And they called her lie for years, and she didn't know why, but it was because he had short legs. She was very short. They called her lie.
That's nice.
People are horrible sometimes. Yeah, but I hope many people will see this, and
Fingers crossed.
we will also move it forward to we will recommend it to some people from the business environment, and also Rob is organizing a networking events.
Mm-hmm.
So you should ask if you're.
Yeah, we would love to have you there.
Yeah.
Sure, if you guys can bear with my English instead of Slovak,
I think it would be no problem.
I would love to. I would love to.
So yeah, there are the opportunities will arise on the way, and thank you one more time.
Cool, thank you.
So.
Čo by ste sa ešte chceli spýtať nášho dnešného hostia? Dajte nám vedieť, napíšte nám na e-mail ahoj@jedenapolchlapa.sk.